I want you to imagine you're standing in front of a mirror, watching yourself brush your teeth. Suddenly, you catch a specific tilt of your head or a certain way you squint your eyes. It hits you like a physical weight. That's exactly how your father used to look. Or maybe it's not a physical trait, but a flash of temper you recognize from your mother. It's that sinking feeling that you aren't actually a blank slate or a self-made person. Instead, it feels like you're just a biological rerun of the people who came before you. We like to believe we are the masters of our own character and the architects of our habits. But have you ever felt like you were fighting a battle against your own nervous system? Like there is a script inside yourselves before you even had the chance to speak. Today, we're looking into the DNA trap to see if your personality was decided before you were born. In psychology, we often talk about the heritability coefficient. It sounds like a complex math term, but it's actually a measurement of your starting kit. Think of your personality as a house that is currently under construction. Behavioral genetics suggests that about 40 to 50% of that house is the foundation. This means your levels of extroversion or neuroticism aren't just moods you picked up. They are regulated by the baseline activity in your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex. If your brain has a naturally high arousal threshold, you will seek out intensity. If your nervous system is biologically loud, you will naturally be more anxious. We used to believe the mind was a tabula rasa, a completely blank slate. But modern biology shows us that the slate comes with deep, permanent engravings. You aren't just learning how to react, you are following a chemical blueprint. It's the difference between choosing a path and being born on a high-speed rail. In 1979, a man named Jim Lewis met his identical twin brother, Jim Springer. They hadn't seen each other since they were 4 weeks old. They grew up in completely different families, miles apart, with no contact. When they finally sat down in a room together, the world of psychology held its breath. It wasn't just that they looked the same. That's the easy part of genetics. It was the fact that they both drove the same model of light blue Chevrolet. They both chain-smoked the same brand of cigarettes and suffered from tension headaches. Both of them had even named their first sons James Allen. They even vacationed at the exact same 3-block strip of beach in Florida. It felt less like a coincidence and more like a glitch in the matrix of free will. Looking at the Jim twins, you start to wonder if your choices are actually yours, or if you are just an actor following a script that was written in a petri dish. It forces us to ask, is there any room left for the self in a world of DNA? Modern psychology suggests your personality is essentially a tuning of your nervous system. Take the Big Five model, for example, which is the gold standard for personality. Take extroversion. It's not just about liking parties or being social. Hans Eysenck proposed that it's actually about cortical arousal. Introverts naturally have a loud internal world, so they avoid external noise. Extroverts have a quiet internal world, so they seek out stimulation to feel awake. Then there's neuroticism, which is deeply tied to your limbic system. This is your brain's alarm system, and some people are born with a hair trigger. If your amygdala is physically larger or more reactive, you will feel more stress. It's not a character flaw. It's a biological setting on your internal thermostat. You aren't choosing to be anxious any more than you're choosing your height. Your biology dictates how much world you can handle before you feel overwhelmed. I think the hardest part of this realization is the grief that comes with it. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to fix yourself. You buy the productivity planners, you listen to the hustle podcasts. You tell yourself that if you just try hard enough, you can become that type A person. But at 2 a.m., when you're staring at the ceiling, the old patterns crawl back in. That familiar wave of social anxiety or that natural pull toward melancholy. It feels like you're trying to reprogram a computer while the power is still on. You start to resent the very cells that make you who you are. You wonder if self-improvement is just a polite way of saying war against nature. Is it possible that we've been shaming ourselves for things we didn't choose? Maybe the trap isn't our DNA. Maybe the trap is the belief that we should be someone else. If your personality has an engine, then dopamine is the fuel. In the 1990s, researchers discovered a specific link between DNA and behavior. It's called the DRD4 gene, and it's often nicknamed the adventure gene. This gene helps regulate how your brain processes dopamine and reward. People with a specific variation of this gene have lower dopamine sensitivity. Because their baseline for pleasure is lower, they feel chronically bored. They don't just like travel or extreme sports, they biologically need them. This creates the personality trait we call novelty seeking. It's the person who can't sit still, who quits a stable job for a startup. On the flip side, some brains are flooded with dopamine from simple things. A quiet book or a walk in the park feels like a 10 out of 10 experience. One person isn't better or more disciplined than the other. They are simply navigating different chemical landscapes in their own heads. For a long time, we've looked at this as a binary choice, a war between two sides. Either you are a product of your home or you are a product of your cells. But that's like asking if the area of a rectangle is caused by its length or its width. It's an impossible question because you can't have one without the other. I remember talking to someone who felt trapped by their family's history of depression. They felt like a ticking time bomb, just waiting for the sadness gene to go off. But then they realized something that changed their entire perspective. Biology isn't a life sentence. It's more like the hand of cards you were dealt. You didn't choose the cards, and some of them are definitely harder to play. But the game isn't decided just because the dealer handed you the deck. The illusion is thinking that because something is biological, it is unchangeable. In reality, your nature is the soil, but you are still the one planting the seeds. This is where the DNA trap finally begins to crack open for us. For decades, we thought genes were like stone monuments, permanent and unchangeable. But a relatively new field called epigenetics has changed everything. Think of your DNA as a massive library of every possible version of you. Environmental factors like stress, diet, or even your social circle act as switches. They can literally turn certain genes on or off without changing the DNA itself. This is why one identical twin might develop a trait while the other doesn't. One twin's environment silenced a gene, while the others activated it. It's called the Diathesis-Stress model in clinical psychology. You might have a biological vulnerability, the diathesis, for a certain trait. But without the right environmental trigger, the stressor, it stays dormant. You are not a static piece of hardware. You are a living, breathing feedback loop. Your biology provides the script, but your life determines which lines are read. When you finally stop fighting your own biology, something strange happens. The trap you've been struggling against suddenly becomes a set of directions. I remember a friend who spent years trying to be a high-energy people person. She was naturally introverted with a nervous system that hit overload fast. She felt like a failure because she couldn't keep up with the hustlers. But the moment she accepted her biological low arousal threshold, she changed. She stopped trying to be a noisy leader and became a deep, focused thinker. She didn't change her DNA, she changed the environment she put her DNA into. We spend so much time wishing we had a different starting kit. But there is a profound peace in saying, this is the nervous system I have. You are not a mistake of nature. You are a specific biological strategy. Your sensitivity, your drive, or even your caution, they all have a purpose. The DNA trap only stays a trap as long as you're trying to claw your way out. Once you understand the walls, you can finally start building a home inside them.